Right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're going to start tonight by approving the minutes of the last meeting, which was May 24th. The minutes were circulated and amended, and I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, great. And going right to left, Ken?
Yes.
Yes.
I wasn't there.
Okay. Chuck, yes.
Yes.
Rosie?
Yes.
All right, approved. Excellent, thank you. So we'll go to the first case, which is Andy and Linda Coxon, 32 Sycamore Lane. Do we have somebody on that case?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello, we're hoping you can hear us and see us now.
We can, thank you.
Okay, excellent, good. Right, get started. Okay, so just quick introduction. We're Andrew and Linda Coxon. We're the property owners of 32 Sycamore Lane, and we're acting on our behalves, on our own behalves. So hopefully our request is pretty straightforward, or at least simple to understand. We're requesting a small variance of section 224.11, which is the side yard setback distance, to locate what is two new energy efficient heat pumps on our property. The dimension of the side setback as required is 15 foot and 1 inch. The requirement under this regulation is 15 foot for this particular zone. And we are requesting a variance of 2 feet 5 inches or 29.5 inches. The context of our request, we purchased the property in November 2021. We had an inspection and it became very clear that the existing heat pumps were redundant and needed replacing for the winter. They would not have lasted the winter. So we hired a contractor, Plitnick Plumbing and Heating of Dobbs Ferry, who I'm sure you're familiar with, to do the work, and they installed two high efficiency Mitsubishi heat pump units at a cost of approximately $30,000 for us. The work was performed on an emergency basis. Plitnick installed these along the side of the building, which we understand is common among for them to install in the river towns. I think when they submitted for the permit for the approval, the permit was denied, and under investigation, it was the 15-foot setback rule was discovered. So the variance request that we're asking for is to 12 foot 7.5 inches, or approximately 16.33%. Just a couple of things about the heat pumps. They are high efficiency. They're the latest model, so they're in line with Irvington's green efficiency drive. They're a slightly different model to the kind of normal sort of standard box heat pumps or condensers that you see around the local area. They're screened by trees, and there is a drop off of approximately 5 feet to the next door neighbor's property. And they have a minimal loudness. They range from approximately 21 to 54 decibels, which is their maximum. So in the sort of context of noise, I think the American Academy of Audiology rates 50 decibels as moderate rainfall, 40 decibels as a quiet library. So they are really as whisper quiet as they are described as being. So that's really our ask. It's a fairly simple one. I'll stop talking for a moment and open up, I guess, to any questions.
Does anybody have?
Yeah, the picture that was part of your application.
Yes.
Those were not the heat pumps that are there now. Is that right?
Those are the heat pumps that have been installed. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. The picture looked different compared to what I was expecting when I went out there. It doesn't matter. I was just curious.
Oh no, those are the ones. Those are the ones in the picture that were installed. Yeah, the ones that we're asking for approval for.
Any other questions?
No.
All right, then I'll make a motion. I was able to get out and take a peek at them. And this is a fairly modest ask. It's not that much into the side yard. It's obviously something you needed to do.
Yes.
So I am going to make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll
Second.
accept.
Cal, second. We'll start with Rosie. What do you say, Rosie?
Yes.
Judd?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes as well.
All right, you are approved, and I'll send you out a letter probably at the beginning of the week. next
Thank you
week.
so much. And thank you for your time tonight. Thank you. Much
Thank
appreciated.
you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, so the next case is Cousins and Adams, 21 South Cottonette. Do we have somebody on that? Great, terrific.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. My name's Bill Witt. I'm the architect for the project at 21 South Cottonette, and I'm here representing the property owners, John Cousins and Beverly Adams. For the most part, what we're trying to do with their property is an interior renovation. We're redoing kitchens, we're changing some windows, but part of the renovation, and if I could, I'd like to share my screen with you.
Sure. Thank you.
So I'm hoping you're able to see the site plan I've got up now. As part of the renovation, there's two things that we wanted to try and accomplish at the same time. There's a current, I would call this a dangerous set of steps that lead up to the rear porch. It's about 10 steps that lead up to a door leading into the house. We would like to rebuild that. And while rebuilding it, we wanted to create a 3 foot by 3 foot landing, which would be much safer for someone exiting the building or entering. So by adding that, it does increase our coverage. Another thing that we were hoping to do was to replace, there are currently several wall-mounted air conditioning units on the house. So we wanted to install a central air conditioning system with a heat pump, similar to the previous application. And we're proposing to put that on the left-hand side of the property. Now, this is in a zone that requires 10-foot setbacks. The furthest side lot is 10.9. And I'm estimating that with a 3 foot concrete pad, we would need about a 7.9 foot side yard setback. When we combine the pad for the AC units and the slight increase in the stair leading up to the rear porch, we're adding about 31 square feet to the total lot coverage. Now, this property, as I'm sure you know, is in a fairly dense area of Irvington. So we are already existing non-conforming in reference to lot coverage. But one thing I did submit to the board was a quick vignette of the neighboring properties, just to give you a sense on how our subject property, which is here, relates to the other properties. And I also did a chart of the coverage of those properties, just to prove out that there's clearly a density issue in the neighborhood in respect to lot coverage. We are proposing a 26.6% lot coverage. The existing is 26.1. And as you can see, the adjacent and neighboring properties are all, very close or a bit over what we're actually asking for. So it's not inconsistent with our minor increase in coverage. And I just wanted to prove that it is something that is typical in the neighborhood. I would like to add also that there is a full fence running down the side of the property that will separate our condensing unit from neighboring properties. I'll right here along that side here. And that's basically it. We want to rebuild the back steps, and we would like to add some modern heating and cooling equipment to the property.
Why are you locating the heat pump in that particular spot?
Well, we put it on this side because on the opposite side, the property is actually closer to the lot line. So our adjacent properties are a bit closer over here. In addition to that, when you look at PB1, The property at 19 South Cottonette, in addition to having a fence on that side, has their driveway on that side. So there's not a whole lot of windows or fenestration. That's where they park their cars. It seemed to be the logical place to locate it. The HVAC companies that we spoke to preferred to have the equipment on the sides versus the rear, as would my client, because they have some gardens back here, herb gardens, and it just wouldn't be so great to have it at the base of the steps. So that's generally why we selected this side.
Any questions? Any other questions?
Our other air conditioning units or heat pumps similarly impinging on other lots. I don't have a problem with the increase in coverage. The data that you showed certainly supports the fact that it fits in with the neighborhood. Just curious whether you have an issue with the, you know, the nearness to the lot boundary. Is that common?
Yeah, I think what we're asking is it common to have these in that neighborhood on the side of the house rather than in the back?
Yes, I believe it is. Let me see if I may have captured the picture of the property on the opposite side. That's 23. Let me see if I can zoom in here. There's 23 Cottonette. I believe that their unit is on the left-hand side of their property, which is what is adjacent to my client's house. But their house and my client's house is closest to the property line. I don't think we can make it out, but I believe the AC condenser is on this side of their property. I don't believe it is on the opposite side because, as I said earlier, they have a very limited side yard. I think they're only about 8 feet, and that's entirely driveway. You can see this is the location of where we're proposing the unit. And we're replacing a couple of through wall units that currently exist there now. So I also believe
there's a fence right there. Is that what you're saying?
there is a fence there. And if anything, I think by pulling the wall units out of the house and dropping them down much lower, will probably be quieter and it's more aesthetically pleasing for the neighbors as well.
Okay.
I don't have any problem with the application. Do I assume correctly that it's also, you know, current high efficiency type units that are quieter than in
Absolutely.
the past?
Absolutely. That's another big reason why my clients wanted to do this. They want to not only get central air conditioning in the house, which they don't currently have, excuse me, they'd like to replace their old, you know, fossil fuel burning heating equipment.
Yep. All righty. Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to make a motion to approve. 31 square feet is, you know, is pretty modest. And it's all necessary stuff. Particularly, I think it is a good thing to replace those AC units with a heat pump. I'd rather give you a variance than two, but I do understand those are very sort of small spaces and you're trying to maximize your outdoor space. And given the fact that you're getting rid of the unit, the AC units on that side of the house, there is a fence. I am willing to go for those two variances. So do I have a second?
Second.
Ken will second, and we'll start with you.
Yes.
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 Rosie?
Yes.
All right, you are approved.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you much.
Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, Marquez is the next case.
Good evening. How are you guys doing?
How are you?
Good, good. So just quick presentation of what's being presented this evening.
And what's your name?
I'm James Kraft from Studio Park, representing Raul Marquez and Ali Bear from 53 Field Terrace.
Terrific, thank you.
Yeah. So this was a previously existing non-conforming lot. So what we're doing is documenting existing property that was, or existing coverage that was done prior to the purchase of the home. Subsequently, the client is trying to expand their patio, but also reduce their coverage. So what we're presenting today is essentially a larger deck, but a removal of existing coverage. We presented to the planning board all the documentation they required related to the undocumented work, and now we're trying to reduce that said coverage. I can share my screen if that's helpful for right now.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Sure. So can you guys see front page?
Yes.
Okay. So essentially speaking, when they purchased the property, there was a pool. The pool was approved. However, the patio wasn't fully approved as far as we can tell based upon the timeline of things. What we've done is documented the patio. And what we're presenting is reducing the patio, but expanding their present back deck. You can see this deck here. Oops, sorry. You can see this deck here. It's a little bit in disrepair. It's about 30 years old. They're expanding the deck, but then reducing the paver area. The blue area is what is being demolished, as you can see here. And then subsequently, what is being added back is the orange area. So a bigger deck on the existing deck area, a little bit of paver pathway to make their way to the deck. And then subsequently, we provided all the coverage calculations and everything needed for the neighborhood to say that we're somewhat within keeping for what's happening in the neighborhood. As I said before, it is a reduction in coverage. And that's essentially what we're presenting today. So,
Okay. So what's the existing coverage right now?
the existing coverage is, if we want to look at the chart, the existing coverage for the neighborhood is, it is over what is proposed or what is allowable within the region. However, in keeping with the neighborhood. Sorry, I'm not sharing a screen anymore.
No, that's okay. So so your property, the property we're talking about tonight, what's the number? What is the square footage of coverage?
Oh,
right
the
now?
overall square footage? Oh, the overall square footage
Yep.
is,
The whole big number right now.
got it. The overall square footage is, 30,000 square feet is the lot.
Okay.
And yeah.
And what would it be, assuming we approved your variances? What would that number be?
Oh, that's just the overall area of the lot. The overall allowable is,
Okay.
it's 3,600 allowable, and the
Okay.
existing as purchased by the owner is
Yes.
6,100. So what we're proposing is removing 100 plus square feet just in kind. So we're reducing the lot coverage. However, when they purchased the lot in 2020, it was well over before they even got there.
Right. So now you're,
Spectacularly over, actually.
yeah, unbelievably over. So now you're at about what? This,
The coverage is 20% of the lot.
right. And your proposal is to take this down from 6,100 square feet to about what, 5,950, something like that?
It's 6161, and we're taking down to 6072.
6072. Okay. So just a little over 100. Okay. So show us what you would like to do in terms of the deck.
Sure, I'll reshare my screen. You see that again?
Yes.
So what you can see here is all of this area is brick paver, essentially. And then this area here is an existing deck. Can you see that
Yep.
blue square? Okay. So we're removing all of this blue area, which is existing paver that's been there since they purchased the property. And we're proposing putting a deck that is that previous deck plus this portion. And then we're removing this area here, this paver here, this area that had a previous diving board, so that we're under coverage previously. So
All right.
that's the expansion of the deck. It's from the old location to what was a previously approved interior renovation that was done about a year and a half ago.
And can you just show us a picture of, just so we can get a visual on what the deck, show us the existing deck and we'll just get an idea of where it's being extended.
Sure. So here's the old deck. Can you see that there? So this deck is being replaced because it's failing. And then we're expanding the deck to about here. See where the grill is? I know this isn't like fully accurate, but
Right.
that's the expansion of the deck.
Got it.
So it's no change to actual physical coverage. In fact,
Right.
it's reduction. We're just
Right.
trading deck for, or we're trading patio for deck.
Patio for deck. Got
Is
it.
there any change in the height of the deck, or is it all still going to be?
No,
At
the
ground.
deck is going to be at this level. So when you out here, we're going to add a step or two to get down to the patio level, because obviously the grade falls off. You can see that it slopes away here on the northern side of the lot. So, but this is, we're trading this in kind and then expanding.
Gotcha. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I appreciate the fact that you're reducing coverage a little bit, but you are currently very high above coverage. And I'm just wondering if you considered any other areas where pavers might be removed. I'm just to bring it closer down to what's really allowable. I'm looking at some of the other pavers around the pool, and did you give any consideration to removing a little more?
We definitely contemplated it. Like, we're certainly amenable to removing a little bit more specifically from this edge over here. Like, we took away what we thought was totally superfluous and like within reason. Some region we can't take away just by the sheer nature of the pool itself without impacting the pool. So this area in particular, we could remove like a little bit more, but again, this was something that clients encountered when they purchased the property, and we were just trying to do something within reason. So.
Right. Any other questions? Are there any comments from the public? Anybody want to be heard on this?
There are no comments in the chat, and there's nobody raising their hand to speak.
Okay. Just one last question I have. How does this coverage compare with other properties in the neighborhood?
Within the neighborhood, full disclosure, it is high.
Neighborhood.
There's a various, the lots in the neighborhood vary because there's multiple scale of lots. There's a couple of like really, really large properties to the south end of it that like don't nearly meet the same coverage allowable. However, like when you move north of the property towards, maybe it's not Osceola and not Beechwood, but Butternut maybe, like those properties get much denser. So it's more in keeping with that than it is necessarily what's happening in the south. So we did a coverage comparison for the planning board as is requested, and it is, you know, it's not at the low end, to be completely honest.
Okay. Yeah. Field Terrace is sort of its own little neighborhood, and it is a little apples to oranges a little bit. Some of those properties are very different sizes and different shapes even. But I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, I honestly, like, as you move north, the properties are much denser. As you move south, they become much larger as they move towards Osceola and towards Ardley and other things like that. So we understand that this is maybe a little bit over coverage than would be allowable. However, also our clients are just dealing with what they purchased.
When did they buy the house?
2020.
2020. Okay.
March of 2020.
Yep. All right. Any questions from anybody else? It's a tough one because it's so far over coverage numbers. I appreciate the give back. there could probably be a little more give back, but you are talking about giving back pavers at grade level. I don't know that that accomplishes so much from our point of view. So given the fact that you are bringing the numbers down, however, kind of minorly, I am willing to, and not also expanding into a place that isn't already covered, right? You're taking a property that's already covered and just covering it in a different way.
That's correct.
So for that reason, I'm willing to make a motion to approve if I have a second.
Second.
Second, okay, so we'll start with you, Rosie.
Yes.
Judd,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
Okay, you are approved. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much.
much. I appreciate the time, guys. Have a good evening.
Okay, Mercy College.
Good evening. Good evening. This is Seth Mandelbaum of McCullough, Goldberger and Stout. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Very nice to appear before you this evening. With me are Tom Simmons, who is the Vice President for Operations and Facilities at Mercy College, and Chris Tramutola, who is a landscape architect with Peter Gisolfi Associates on the project. Tom, would you mind sharing your screen? We do have a brief PowerPoint if the board doesn't mind. We'd like to take you through. Thank you, Tom. So why don't we go to the next one, Tom? So I'm going to hand it over to Tom and Chris in a moment to give a very brief presentation, but I just wanted to sort of cue that up. We currently have an application pending before the Village of Irvington Planning Board for amended site plan approval for improvements to the front of entrance of the campus, as well as where the entry drive crosses the old Croton Aqueduct going into the campus, which you'll hear about in a moment. The variances that we're asking for are from the old Croton Aqueduct and Broadway buffers, respectively, under section 224.51 of the Irvington zoning code. Ed Marin flagged these at the beginning of the site plan process, and the planning board referred this over to you at their June 1st meeting for you to consider the area variances tonight. As you'll hear, these no new buildings or structures are proposed. These variances really have to do with proposed improvements. There is new signage proposed in a similar place to existing signage, but primarily this is landscaping, a new exit lane, some pedestrian safety measures where the Croton Aqueduct crosses the driveway. And even though mathematically the variances may seem large, since we're basically at 0 feet right now from these various buffers, I think you'll hear from our presentation that when you apply the balancing test under New York State village law, that the benefit to the applicant clearly outweighs the detriment to the surrounding area, which we believe there's really no detriment, is only positives. So with that, I will hand it over to Tom and then Chris, and then happy to answer any questions that the board might have or the public might have.
So good evening. A little backstory on the project that's before you, what they need the variances on. In 2016, as part of our operating permits with Dobbs Ferry and the Village of Irvington, as well as a new dorm that we had built in Dobbs Ferry in 16-17, there was a requirement for us to, at the main entrance of the campus, to add a third lane that would help with traffic flow, and to change the radii on that main intersection on Route 9. And those two things will fit in a little bit with what we're going to talk about with the scope that's in front of you with some of the other pieces. The way I would characterize it, that project, it was a requirement for us to do. It was a lot of infrastructure, and it was something we had to work with DOT to get in place, that we have gone through a long journey with them, with land transfers and all sorts of things to be able to get there. As we were doing that, we had always in the back of our mind had another kind of a sister project that would go with it for kind of aesthetic and functional things that would kind of balance off with that project. And the reason for that is that the DOT project was really out more in this intersection and only came back so far on the driveway and then just ended, I think 150 feet or something, the distance it was. So the couple other elements that were part of this project that's before the planning board now really had some of them to do from public comment and some to do just from the different folks we interacted with when we built the new residence hall. And one of the example of that would be is the aqueduct trail all along the Dobbs Ferry side was all what I would call maintenance, new stone dust, cleaned up on top and all that. And we were asked to do the same thing on the Irvington side. We had been asked numerous times to create some kind of a raised pedestrian table on the main road as it came in, so that the people walking along the trail and everything would be seen as as pedestrian first from a safety standpoint. And you'll see within that buffer that these paths that are in the landscape area that we're doing are similar to the OCA trail in that they're stone dust, they aren't poured concrete. They're kind of meandering, natural, just stone dust paths within a landscape zone. So what we are trying to do is a couple things here. One, these radiuses, as I mentioned to you, change. So we have new signage that needs to come here. You can see the Broadway buffer. There's already existing signs there. These are just bigger signs, but when the radii gets changed, our existing signs wouldn't stay. And the rest of this, our designer can talk to you about, is really a pollination corridor with a lot of plantings and some small scale stone walls that fit with piece of that. The second item that's in consideration is also that we are adding a second lane at where our guardhouse booth is back internal on the campus. And that helps us from the standpoint, whether you're aware or not, we do traffic counts and provide reports to the village of Dobbs Ferry and the village of Irvington as part of our special permits. So we track the number of cars and who's coming and those type of things. So we do get some backup here when people stop and ask a lot of questions to the person, the guard, where the average person that comes there every day, we have a reader that just scans the sticker and lets people in. So we think this will help a lot. It will help from a little bit of backup we get that gets near the trail here on some peak times. And so the buffer pieces off the OCA are these kind of stone dust paths, and out on the Broadway buffer, we've got new signs that are replacing the other ones. This gives you an idea of the existing condition. You can see on top of the signs we have, and then we have a couple images down below of where the new signs will be, the wider radius with the right turn lane and the scale of what's going on with that. And I will then let Chris offer any details on the calculations and the things he's done on the calculations for the zoning.
Tom, why don't we go to that last slide? I think that one.
Yeah, if you go back, yeah, that works as well. Good evening, Chris Tremitola with Peters Zelfi Associates. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. So as we approach this project, and we've been working with Tom on this project for a number of years now, both on the Croton Aqueduct buffer and on the Broadway buffer, what the goal for this project was to bring this back within the context of the wider landscape. Both the aqueduct trail and Broadway section of Mercy College has not really fit in with the Broadway landscape or the aqueduct landscape for quite some time. What we're bringing back here is a landscape that includes low boulder walls, where if you drive up and down Broadway, the minority is when there's not a boulder wall. The stone walls kind of are iconic for the Broadway landscape. And this meadow here at Mercy College is one of the exceptions. For no real determined reason, it seems like this has been left out. So as part of these boulder walls that we're putting in, we're enhancing that visual appeal as well with a pollinator garden. That's an official pollinator corridor. We have a horticulturalist that we're working with to select those specific plants and place those accordingly. On the Old Croton Aqueduct, anyone who has walked north or south of this specific portion will tell you that this has been in desperate need of repair, of maintenance really, for a number of years. And this is simply making things safer on the trail and for this crossing at the campus entrance road. The raised pedestrian table will force traffic to slow down at that portion. You will have a different paving material in that location, so you'll feel the rumble under your tires. So it would be, I'm sure everybody's experienced that at some point driving. It forces you to become more aware of your surroundings there. And the very slight change in the curve of the road actually is a traffic engineering detail that shows that has been proven to slow down traffic as well. So all of these pieces kind of bring this portion of Mercy College back into the wider landscape here.
Thanks, Chris. The final thing I'll note, and then we'll open up for questions, is as part of the planning board review and the review by Han Engineering, and it was also reviewed by the village's landscape architect, Suzanne Nolan. The Han had us calculate the overall coverage on the campus and not just buildings. The building number is not changing, but anything that could possibly be deemed impervious, even things that are arguably pervious. And that number is still below the maximum 15%, which is why that's not triggered as a variance before you. So I just wanted to note that because I heard you talk about coverage on some of the other applications that are more residential. Even the Irvington side of the campus is quite large, and Chris spent a lot of time doing a lot of math in the last few weeks to make sure that we're still in compliance with the 15% maximum, and we are. So
And
with
just to
I'm
add,
sorry, Chris, go
Seth, sorry, those paths that are shown around the loop of this meadow are pervious gravel. So that's a stabilized, organic stabilized gravel that is pervious. So, but those were, regardless, those were in the calculation.
Correct. So it's very conservative. That is essentially our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Just so I'm clear, you were talking about things that the planning board was considering. What you're asking us to consider tonight has fully been approved by the planning board. Is that correct?
It has not been approved by the planning board yet. We've been in front of them twice. We asked them to consider approving it subject to variances, which I understand they do occasionally. There are still some details being worked out with the landscape architect. So we're going back to them on July 6th for hopefully final approval, but they were willing to refer us over to this board. So we didn't lose a month in requesting these variances.
And so nothing's going to change in terms of what we would be giving you variances for.
Correct. And really the reason is that there's already full encroachment into these buffers already.
Right.
So anything we're doing is in an area
Replace.
that's already doesn't provide the buffers that the code technically requires.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'm wondering, you referenced the boulder walls, which
Yeah.
I agree would make it consistent with other parts of the Broadway area. Do you have any, can you just give a little more detail as to how big those would be and where those are going to be placed?
I think the rendering might show that, Tom.
Yes, those are curvilinear walls. So they're, you can see them on the right side of the lower image shown right now. They're only about 30 inches tall. So they're not tall walls. They match very similarly the irregular walls that are just to the north of what I used to know as the
Exist
IBM
now.
campus. What was that?
I said these exist over here on this side.
Yes.
Right.
And these are
okay.
the new pieces.
Yes.
Yeah,
Got
the walls going on the west side of Broadway look, they're about that height.
Yep.
And they go up quite a ways.
Yes.
Okay, so that's sort of the existing and the proposed on that. Okay, got it. Any other questions?
Yeah, my other question was in terms of signage, I see the signage you're replacing, and I understand the reasoning for that. Are there additional signs being added that we should consider? And I think there was a reference in your submission to something near the train station as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
there's
go ahead, Tom.
a much smaller version of this sign. It's only about 8 feet long. That's going to sit at the turn of our train path, the new path we put. That's kind of towards the edge of the tennis court, that up on that way. That's smaller in scale and is unlit and sets back off the way a little bit. So everyone's been pretty supportive of that so far.
And that
Do you have
doesn't
any-
trigger any variances, which is why it's
Right.
not. You know,
We
we were
would
just-
Oh, that's
considering
true.
that as a
Okay,
variance. Yeah,
got it.
yeah.
That's
got it.
well outside of the buffers.
Okay,
Okay.
yes.
And so, and there's no other signage being added that we need to consider?
Nothing else in the buffer. Yeah.
No.
And the lighting on the new sign, is it consistent with the existing?
Yes, it's a lit sign here in the front on Broadway, but it's dark sky compliant with shielded fixtures.
Is there anybody else who wants to be heard on this, Sarah? Any members of the public?
There's no comments in the chat and there's nobody raising their hand to speak.
Okay, great.
And there were no letters or submissions about this, right?
No. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, I just have one question on the map that was up earlier, the sort of overhead schematic map,
This one?
that one, yes. I'm just curious about I assume the broken green line that's superimposed there, that is the Broadway buffer?
Correct.
I'm just curious that little jog there at the entrance. I mean, again, it's not really directly related to the variances. I'm just curious why that is.
Tom can go into the land transfer for hours.
Somehow, yeah, I spent 2 years dealing with the DOT with where the property went out into the road to get the right of way to make these turns. It's just the way it was delineated by
Okay, so-
someone a long time ago.
Okay, so it's just a sort of a larger buffer area in that particular little,
Yeah, probably at the entry for some reason, someone did it that way.
okay, just curious.
That is
This
curious.
is based on the right-of-way line of Broadway, and the right-of-way line moved to allow for these new turning radii that Tom talked about.
Okay.
That's interesting. All right, any other questions?
I do. The area on the OCA, is anything going to be done on the trail itself, or is that not part of this project?
It is. We do the same thing that we have done on the other part that was redone. We worked with the parks people and they gave us a detail. So it's the same detail we did on the other part of the campus. New stone dust, it's leveling and grading it's what we've been asked to do for the required maintenance on it. And it looks nice when it's all done, if you've seen the part that's been done.
When you're doing that, could you go north for about a mile?
Yeah.
Tom
That'll be
is
great.
Tom is generous, but not that generous.
We appreciate that. Okay, anybody else? All right, well, then I'm going to make a motion, and I'm going to make a motion to approve. In terms of the signage and the Broadway buffer, it's really just, replacing signs that are already there. It's not really constructing anything new per se in the buffer. The walls are new, but they're, as you say, very consistent with how the whole Broadway buffer looks. And I think it'll look really nice. And in terms of the OCA, that is almost maintenance more than anything else. And so I think it's a very reasonable application. I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Great. Thank you, Judd. All right, Rosie, we'll start with you.
Yes.
Judd?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
I say yes.
I say yes with appreciation for the beautification.
Yes, I think it's going to look great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, folks. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Thank
Stay
you.
well.
Have a good night.
Stay well.
All righty, so the next one is Blum, which is 7 Irving Place. Do we have somebody on that? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the ZBA. My name is Lino Sharetta, partner with the law firm Blakely, Platt and Schmidt. On behalf of Adi and Shireen Blum, the applicants this evening. With me on Zoom this evening, we have Renee Byers, our architect. And just a quick little presentation, Madam Chair, if I may. So this is a variance application for Adi and Shireen. They live at 7 Irving Place. What they're looking to do, they have an aging swimming pool that's in disrepair, and they want to construct a new pool along with some other improvements, retaining walls, walks, and stormwater management system, as well as do some improvements to their house, such as re-siding and some reconstruction of rear deck. So the Blums would like 2 variances this evening, specifically coverage, which I'll get into, and the other are accessory setbacks in the rear yard. And the reason why we have that issue too is because this property is deemed a corner lot. And pretty soon I'll have Renee put up the site plan, but that poses some of the challenges that we have here with respect to this property. With respect to the property itself, it's about 1.2 acres on a sloping topography. It's located in the IF 20 zone district, Madam Chair, members of the board. And with respect to the coverage variance that we're seeking tonight, the existing property as is exceeds coverage. We submitted a letter to your board back on June 6th, 2022, which explains the variances and the balancing tests in our letter. But just a recap, Madam Chair and members of the board, the existing building coverage with the principal structure and accessories here is about 8,989 square feet. The proposed building coverage is actually less. We're going less. We're removing 23 square feet of coverage, but we're still over the allowable. And it's about 67.87% greater than the allowable. Existing is 68.3% greater. So it's an existing situation. We're making it less, non-conforming, if you will. But when we put up the side plan, you'll see that given the topography here and where it says we can and can't build, we're left with the coverage the way it is. We also did an analysis of other properties in the area that exceed coverage as well, and we provided those in sheet L 0.0 as part of our presentation. The other variants that we're going to require are for the accessory structures in the rear yard. So we fit in the side yard, but we don't fit in the rear yard because of the corner lot situation. So with respect to the location of the pool, the spa, and the pool location, we're asking that the pool be 25.75 feet beyond the front yard setback and the existing pool is also non-conforming at 25.5 feet. Same thing with the grill and the grill enclosure and the outdoor shower. The code requires a rear yard setback of 35 feet. Again, we're proposing the structure of the grill enclosure at 15.0 feet and the outdoor shower at 20 feet and the fire pit at 20.66 feet. So that's pretty much the variances that we are seeking tonight. We did appear before the planning board, and the planning board referred us here. So without further ado, if it's okay with the board, I'm going to have Renee just share his screen and put up the site plan just to go through those specific variances. Madam Chair, members of the board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Renee, if you could pull up the plan and just.
Yes, I will. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So give me a second here.
Thank you.
I'm going to. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to start with for a moment with just.
Renee, still it up. We don't see it yet.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to pull it up now.
Got it.
I'm going to start with some site photos. Hold on. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is a very odd lot configuration. The front of the yard is right here. Irving Place is here. The road dead ends. It does not go all the way through to Strawberry Lane, and Strawberry Lane is a private road that departs from its right of way quite a bit. So it's again, most unusual to deem this for us a corner lot, but it does have two frontages, but they don't connect like a typical corner. So I just wanted to point that out. These are existing condition photos. So it's kind of a 1980s house. The house itself, plus all the retaining walls, it's on a very steep site, are already taking up all but 500 square feet of the total coverage. So it's a large house. However, there is a huge open space on the back, and the property has very nice views of the river. So if you can see over on this right-hand side, here is the existing deck, which has an enormous and rather awkward staircase. The swimming pool has a lot of cracks and issues. There's a lot of concrete steps going up the side of the house. These are views of the front, which we hope to improve upon. There are a number of retaining walls. You can see the failing wall here. The property starts to get very steep. The existing pool, as is our new pool, which is virtually in the same location on the same level, is already at basement level. So you come down quite a bit on the back of the house. Here, if you see this back elevation, here's the big deck. You come down. So this is a partially walkout basement. And then as you move down the site, parcel in the middle, you come down and have a nice view of the Hudson. A lot of disrepair here, concrete walls literally splitting, a super odd configuration here of a bunch of concrete and a lot of unsightly structures that would be completely removed. So I'm going to pull that out. Hang on. And I'll get to what we'd like to do. I'm going to move into a quick overall plan to show you what we want to do, and then I'm going to go right into the site analysis data, but this gives you a better view of what we would like to do. This is actually our planting plan, but I pull this one up because it shows the new configuration of how we would like to arrange the elements. So we have a long and narrow swimming pool surrounded by seating areas and decks, stone decking, and there's actually, if I were to zoom in, you would see there's a lot of grass joins in between these pavers. So we try to keep it as soft as possible. Here's a little patio where you come out of the existing basement, and that has the new, the replaced deck above it. It's virtually the same size as the old deck. And then we have replaced those side concrete steps that I showed you with the stone steps coming down. Our structures that Lena was talking about, site structures, zooming in here a little bit, is we have a grill fairly modest grill table off to the side. We do have a fire pit over in this area, a few steps down to a fenced in the pool equipment area and a generator pad. These are set down below. So as you look out over the pool, you will not see any of these structures. And this little outdoor shower enclosure is quite private. And then we have proposed a lot of good screening on the side. So I'm going to go now to the meat of the numbers. All right. So hopefully all our pink colors and things are going to help illustrate what we're up against here. The left-hand side, existing site plan, lot coverages and setbacks. So this parcel, because of the frontage on Strawberry Lane, we are asked to find the outermost extension of the house, and that forms the so-called front yard of Strawberry Lane. So that is this arc right here. If you follow my little hand, little cursor hand, sorry, slipping around right here, that is parallel to the Strawberry Lane right-of-way, which is still set back itself some, I don't know, 20 feet or so from the actual edge of curb. So it's very far back. The existing pool already is 80.75 feet away. So you have this sort of kidney-shaped pool. The only area, once you take the 20-foot, the 35-foot rear yard setback, and then the 20-foot pool setback is here, then this is the 15-foot side yard setback. So this leaves us this really bizarre and very steep triangle where one could build a pool, and as well as a lot of these accessory structures. So if you move over to the right-hand side, there's the very same pink triangle, and you can see where our proposed rectangular pool is, and we have added a separate spa also at ground level. Nothing sticks up. So we're pulling out all of this old decking on the existing, all this sort of this E, C, D, all this paving that just surrounds the pool and ugly steps, and replacing it with the more tasteful stone planks that come around on this side. And then we've punctuated that with trees.
Renee, can you just
Yes.
explain to the board just the yellow, if you don't mind, on the right side of the screen?
Down here,
Yep.
the coverage, yes, I'll get to that. So I was just showing the setbacks, which we can go over in detail whenever you're ready, the various setbacks of each of our non-conforming site elements from this now called rear yard. So all of these structures are greater than 15 feet off of that side, which would, under normal conditions, be considered a side yard. So we're well in hand on that. So Lino asked me to go over the coverage. So that's what we will look at down here. These two tables deal with the existing lot coverage is all listed on this side of each of the item breakdowns. And at the end of the day, the existing property is 8,989 square feet of coverage. Our proposed is slightly less, 8,966. The allowable is 5,341. So greater than allowable, we are at 68.3%. Existing is over the allowable, and we are at 67.87, just a little bit less. The right-hand table, these yellow highlights represent all the parcels that we looked at in the neighborhood, which are over. So I just have to move something here. We looked at, this is our parcel that you see here outlined in white, and we did an analysis of all the properties surrounding it. And here's our.
We just have on our screen, your pictures are up in front of the map.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me.
Okay.
Okay. How about if I'm going to make it, is that better?
No.
Do you see my chart now?
Oh, that does
You can
it.
start, yeah, that's
good.
it. Okay,
That's good.
yeah, now we got you.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry. It's funny because what I'm seeing is a full screen of this chart and the parcel map. Okay. So our property A is listed across the top. And then here is the comparison of other overages in the area. So there are quite a number that are over the allowable. Ours at 67.87%. Here's 9 Irving Place at 64%. This one's 8.8% over, 3.8, 39% over. Here's another one. Right below us, 76 North Broadway is at 77.4% over allowable. 15 Strawberry, 51.8, and so on down here. These are 7.1 and 33.4. So our feeling is that given the topography, which has necessitated a great deal, and that's why I wanted to carefully reiterate that with the house square footage itself, plus the number of retaining walls that are existing, our existing and proposed retaining walls are fairly similar in the amount of coverage they take up. We would only have 500 square feet less left. So we think that with our far better arrangement, how we're protecting existing slopes with our new grading, and the amount of beautiful soft buffer planting and meadows that we're proposing down below, more than mitigate definitely the high number that this is adding up to when you first look at at first glance.
And Ray, I don't know if you're done. I just want to add one other thing. We think this is in character, both the existing, and we're going to make it better with respect to the proposed. But yeah, again, it's the topography there, and also the fact that this has been deemed to be 2 front yards. So kind of with those limitations, kind of forces us to put some of these structures where we have them with respect to the accessory structures. So that concludes our presentation. And again, open it up to you, Madam Chair, members of the board, for any questions.
Yeah, I'm curious. Is any of this illegal coverage? Like, was this at some point approved?
Yeah. I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that. This the Blums bought the home, I believe, in 2017 or 2019. And I don't know the history of the approvals on this project.
Yeah,
I know that it was a builder who owned it. I think Lino knows
Yeah, I knew the builder was a former client of mine many moons ago. And this was built because I know the coverage calculations did change much later. So, and I don't recall seeing anything where this was illegal at the time. So, but I know back in 2003,
you have been sent to us asking to approve something that is not permitted, right? I mean, usually Ed would refer you to us because there's something existing there that shouldn't be, and you'd be asking for us to approve it.
So, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, say that again.
Yeah, I'm not making myself very clear.
No, it's okay. I just, yeah, I mean, we got referred to, we were at the planning board, and we had 3 meetings, and then ultimately they sent us, they referred us to you for the variances, because again, it is pre-existing non-conforming as to the coverage. And, with respect to the structures, the accessory structures, obviously we have an issue because of the rear yard. So that's why
I guess my point is, you weren't made aware of anything.
No, correct. You were not made aware of anything illegal or built without permits or any of that. If that's what you're asking.
So at some point, this all got approved. Are there many retaining walls on this property?
Yes, if you look, if you can still see the screen, this left-hand side is the existing condition. So there's a little wall down here. That one's not changing. Same over here. Then what we are doing is rebuilding and moving them just ever so slightly to fit our new grading and to make them a little bit safer, because right now they're literally toppling over. They were not well built, but here is the existing wall coming along here. There's one wall there, there's one here, and then there's a wall hard to see here right on this side. So in our case, we again have this sort of two-tiered system, we're providing a set of stone steps so that we can get the family safely down to this lower meadow area so they can actually use it. Right now, you come to the edge of this thing and you almost fall off.
I only ask that because retaining walls were only made to count against coverage 20 years ago, maybe less.
Yeah, I was the one who drafted that.
Well, that's interesting because that was one of my points. If you look at the existing coverage chart, we broke it apart according to the type of coverage. So you see the existing retaining walls are 1,009 square feet and our proposed are almost the same at 1,017. So they're just rearranged, but they're completely necessary. There's nothing we can do. We need to have those.
It would not have been as far over. It was not as far over on coverage when it was approved as it is now. Because
That's
coverage
possible.
is calculated a little differently. I'm just curious how something with that much coverage got approved in the first place.
Yep. No, you're correct, Madam Chair. I remember 20 years ago when I served as village council, we had a 2003 comp plan and we changed a lot of the regulations and we added retaining walls to be included as part of the coverage calculations. And then that was also further modified by your next comp plan. I believe it was in 2009 or later. So, but yep. No, you're right. History well. So
That's just my own little mystery, partially solved at least. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one, which is just looking at the proposed site plan. And I'm just trying to follow the issue with the rear setback. And I understand the problem you're facing. Now, I think you said all of the additional pool accessories would be outside of the 15-foot setback, right? Which is what would be the side if it was there. So what's the closest to that rear yard property line, just so I can follow
Absolutely.
better?
The closest, I will zoom in a little bit here. So you see our proposed. The closest element is a masonry grilling closure. So that is basically a 36-inch high wall made of stone, quite attractive. Plus we have screening on this side and it has a little niche for a grill. So it's probably like about an 8-foot long table, 36-inch standard drop-in grill in the center. And that's it. And that's 15 feet and change from the, what is the rear yard. And that will have a 6-foot fence because we need a fence for the swimming pool as well as evergreen plantings next to it. So it will not be perceived by the neighbor.
yeah, and just at the planning board, we did have support at the planning board of the neighbors on this application, if I recall. Is that correct, Renee?
That's right. This neighbor actually came and spoke in favor, hoping that they would approve it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, on the neighboring lot area coverage analysis, I thought I saw 76 North Broadway as being over.
That's correct.
Can you go to the map just to see where that
Absolutely.
property?
That's property J. So that's the one, excuse me, right below us. So this is our site here, and this is J. Here's the one that.
So that's residential? It's not?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You know that was there.
Yeah.
I saw it the first time today.
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
It's a long driveway that leads into
Tucked in there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. Is there any way, I understand it's a corner lot and that's a problem. Is there any way you can put the pool in a way that it's not violating the restriction that it be, near the street?
Let me show you. I think what will help illustrate that is we have our engineers did a steep slope analysis, just to give you one more fancy diagram. But the two colors of green represent the lighter green is 15 to 25% slope and the darker green is 25% and over. So you can see here, now this diagram doesn't take into account that odd triangle, but basically that triangle that I showed you of allowable zoning location is right here. So this is an extremely sloping area, which would be very difficult engineering feat and would trigger other variances because we would have to have such huge retaining walls in order to create a flat
Correct.
spot for a pool. And the feasibility of the family getting down to that level, plus they have Mrs. Blum's parents, aging parents live with them and would like to be able to use this space. So this is really from an engineering perspective as well as a topographic perspective is not a feasible location.
So in other words, this is a lot on which a pool should never have been built.
Well,
Well,
I don't agree with that. I think that I think it's actually a lovely and beautiful spot for a swimming pool. I think it's more the eccentricity of the way that we're being asked to draw the setback lines. I think to me that is much more the issue, because the area where even where the existing pool is relatively flat. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And that's where you would put a pool. We're trying to, we are also being asked to build a sizable infiltration chamber for the drainage structures. And that is going over here in this flat part of the yard. So we're really pretty boxed into this location, and it works also very well with the house itself in terms
And
of
the
how you circulate through the area.
Yeah, the pool wasn't illegal when it was built, but it did meet the limits of disturbance, and the actually your in terms of the location, it was put in there for that specific reason. So the existing pool and that location obviously comply with then the limits of disturbance and the steep slope protections that we have in the village code.
And I wonder if back then, I'm only speculating, but I wonder if it was considered a corner lot at that time. It would be logical to just call this a regular lot with Irving Place as your front yard, in which case this would be a very normal sort of spot to put a swimming pool, because you've got it well back from the side yard, certainly has a huge rear yard, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and just from a zoning standpoint, and I know this board is very familiar. I mean, there are a lot of nuances here and uniqueness to this lot in terms of it is unique given the topo, given the fact that it's a corner lot, which on two road, have Irving Place that doesn't even really go into Strawberry Lane. So it's kind of unique in that sense. So I would say it's separate and apart from other properties in the area with respect to this, but similar in character to coverage as we showed on the coverage analysis on the right side of your screen. So again, we would just hope the board will look favorably on this, given all these these elements and nuances to this particular application.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, well, I mean, really, when you get right down to it, you're swapping one pool for another. I mean, that's really
Right.
what it comes down to. And knocking off a few square feet, not many, but it's hard to, the setbacks don't bother me as much, because I do think this is a unique lot. And I think this is sort of what variances are meant for, which is mostly you would not want a pool in the front yard, but when the front yard doesn't make sense, then sometimes you do, or the side yard. So I'm not as troubled by that. The coverage is appalling, but it was legal, it's a legally permitted, allowed amount of coverage for whatever reason that you're reducing. So I just, even though the number is very high, it is similar to neighboring properties. It certainly gives me a bit of discomfort, but I will make a motion to approve.
Actually, Madam Chair, sorry to interrupt, but I don't know if we went to the public yet. I didn't know if anyone was out there.
Oh, did we?
No, there's nobody raising their hand to speak. I had no comments.
Nope. Yeah,
Okay.
I think Thought I'd check with Sarah, but at any rate, nobody's out there.
No problem. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. So I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. We'll start with Ken. Yes,
Yes.
I'll say yes.
I don't think you need my vote. I really am concerned about having a lot where a pool really doesn't fit. I mean, the rationale for the rule that it has to be, beyond the rear, in the rear, you can't satisfy that here. And I don't know that when the zoning rules were passed, that there was an intention to make an exception to that. So I don't think you need my vote.
So that's a no. Judd, what about you?
Yes.
Rosie?
Yeah, I mean, I find this a tough one, not so much, I'm a little less troubled by the setbacks, just again, because of the odd configuration of a lot. But I do find the coverage thing really gives me pause. But as Sarah, as you pointed out, it appears that it was approved in the past, and this is very slightly less, but it is troubling. But yeah, I would vote to approve.
Okay. Thank you. All right, you're approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the ZBA.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
Good night. Thank you. Have a nice
Appreciate
summer.
your time. Good night.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so the last one is Blanton, Strawberry Lane. We're not going
A famous Strawberry Lane.
too far away. We'll see what they have to say for themselves.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Hello,
Doug?
good evening. I'm well. How is everybody?
Good, thank you.
Hopefully this will be very quick. Douglas McClure for the Blantons at 9 Strawberry Lane. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Yes, please do.
This isn't my usual device, so can you see the drawings okay?
Yep.
All right, so this is an existing house. It's the gatehouse for the castle that you guys were talking about that had the terrible coverage, not the one that was compared to with the long driveway. The house is pre-existing. It's an older house, and at some point in time, they built a little kitchen addition here on this existing patio. That is falling apart, and the client would like to expand it and build themselves a new kitchen. So we are proposing building a new kitchen on the existing brick patio. So we're not changing any coverage. We're actually reducing some coverage because we're taking out a shed. But so the only reason we are coming in front of you is because this is the existing house is pre-existing in the setback, and we are doing work in the setback, so we need the variance to approve that work. Does that make sense?
It does. So you're enclosing what
We're
patio.
We're enclosing some patio, expanding the kitchen, essentially. Let's see if I can draw something a little. We're essentially expanding the kitchen by, oh, that's not going to work. I'll just go back to the other way. Oops. We're expanding the kitchen by about this much, but that is all existing patio. This stone wall is here. So again, we're not changing the coverage. It's just that this area of work is new work within the setback. It's shielded by the house for most of the drive. There's a large fence here. You'll never actually see the addition as you drive by because it's very low. It's only a one-story addition.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Excellent. All right. Any questions for Doug?
Doug, what's the distance for the setback? You could just maybe
The existing setback, is, hold on one second. It's a 35-foot setback from Strawberry Lane. So you can see this part of the house, which was an old garage that was converted to a family room. And this part of the house, which is living room and bedrooms, they already exist within that setback. As a matter of fact, a good portion of the house is within the setbacks of the lot.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Is that also because of just the older house and?
So
laws
yeah,
haven't
this house was built again about when the castle was built, which I don't know how old that is, but this piece of the property, I'm sure at one point it was all one piece of property. This was subdivided off as its own piece of property, and then setbacks were overlaid on it, but the house was already there. It was built before all this became a thing.
Okay. All right, any other questions? I think there's a comment from,
It's from the homeowner. He says the house is 1859.
okay,
There you go.
there you go. That answers our questions.
There weren't setbacks in 1859.
No, there certainly were not. Setbacks from what? All right, well, if there's no other comments or questions, I'll make a motion to approve. Might be a record. We're getting rid of everything tonight with the yes. But we'll see. But that's my motion, is to approve. Obviously, the addition, no additional coverage is great. You're really just doing work in the setback that's just enclosing something that's already there. So I think it's a fairly modest ask. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll start, Rosie, with you.
Yes.
Judd?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a yes.
All righty. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Excellent. Thank you.
I gotta figure out how to get out of here. Stop share and leave.
All right.
Oh, we speeded through that tonight. That was great.
Yeah.
You never know.
Are we off?
Are we